Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to a special online event today called Uncover Your Destiny and True Self using ancient Vedic face reading. Discover the profound benefits of your mind-body connection for self-discovery, healing, and enlightenment. I'm Jennifer Price, and I'm a senior marketing campaign strategist for the Shift Network. And I'm really thrilled to be hosting this program today with Deborah King, New York Times bestselling author, energy medicine expert, and renowned spiritual teacher. Welcome, Deborah. I always enjoy our conversations, and I'm so excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, what fun to be here, Jen. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you.
So, talk all about Vedic face reading. This is a modality that I've been using my entire life since I was exposed to it in my 20s. Well, let me back up and for new people, let me tell them how I came into this. So,
yes,
my background, I was just out of law school and in my first law job and woke up with cancer. Boy, I was blown away by that. I wasn't expecting it. It was definitely not in my plan if I'd had one at the time. So I kind of stopped everything. I asked the medical doctors for a little window to look around at options. And they gave me, I think, 6 months, as I recall. And I stumbled right away. I stumbled on meditation and energy healing, of all things. So at the time, out of the box. And a couple sessions, I had an amazing remission at the hands of a healer. You know, like who knew? I'd never heard of this stuff. And I segued into that field. And, you know, it's been more than 40 years that I've been the student and teacher of energy healing and everything Vedic. Vedic is the field that I devoted myself to. I really enjoy helping people move up spiritually, move up physically, move up emotionally. And so I'm real jazzed today to be sharing one of the fun tools that I have in my toolbox that's real easy to learn.
I really love that about this particular program. Yeah. That it's fun, but it's also very practical and useful in your spiritual journey. So it's kind of a tricky way to work on furthering your life and purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, I found over the years that I find it most useful to teach these kind of tools right at the get-go, because even if the student only stays a few months with you, you send them home with something really useful. But more on that in a moment, because that's kind of the fun part. When I first encountered face reading, I couldn't believe what insights it provided and so quickly. So the Vedas, those ancient texts from ancient India, they're like 5,000 years old. They teach us that we're all souls. We are souls moving forward in life in a physical body temporarily, right? The body dies and the soul is eternal. So, you know, we're a combination of fate and free will. It's so important to acknowledge that, Jen, that, you know, we're not like tied down to some plan. We have free will all the time.
Right.
But at the same time, as an astrologer, a Vedic astrologer, I can also tell you at the same time that we have some proclivities from planets that influence us dramatically. And at the exact moment of your birth, you have a specific planetary profile that reflects your past karma from previous lifetimes, or let's say previous experiences on other planes, whatever that means, right?
Right.
And someone who's trained, as I am, I can take a look at an individual with their permission, and I can predict a lot of things about their relationships, their career path, their spiritual issues, you know, challenges in this lifetime, you know, and more, right?
Yeah. And I do think that's something that you're especially gifted at is that reading and clearing energy quickly. Like you really can assess somebody quickly. And I know that your audience really knows you for that.
Yes. And there's nothing like, you know, doing 10,000 people.
Right.
That's probably not an exaggeration. I probably have looked at that many people.
Yeah.
So our faces, our body posture, and then your personal energy field, or what a lot of people call their aura, they reveal your destiny, your karma, and a lot about you and what's going on with you. So again, we have free will. And so if we're meditating and we are doing some kind of what the Buddhists would call right action, which is being of service, which is whatever you're doing, like your job, you're in right action, right?
Right.
Look at all the people you're helping with your work. Yeah, I was listening to your your job title. And I thought, that's impressive, but look you're helping thousands of people too.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So through our cycle of life, death, and reincarnation, which I do believe is as a fact, we're traveling this spiritual path to become at some point a purely spiritual being, which I know doesn't sound very enticing to those of us that are living in a body,
Right.
but that's actually where we're headed. We're headed at some point. That's called Moska, the state of pure enlightenment. And it can take many lifetimes, and who knows? I often sense that people live on multiple planes at once. And so that's jetting you through space and time. And every thought and deed we have impacts us on our spiritual journey, every thought, every deed. So back to face reading. It's just one tool in my toolbox. And to share with you, it's taught in India, which is where I learned it, at really prestigious schools. And it's still probably 4,000 or 5,000 years old. So in the Vedic system, it is an aspect of astrology. And
I can't wait to hear more about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of our time together, we'll share with you how you can continue working with Deborah towards your own transformation in a truly fascinating and engaging course, Decode Ancient Vedic Face and Energy Body Types to Heal Childhood Trauma. Transform early experiences that shape your behavior, relationships, and overall health.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that whole thing today. It's really fun. I love figuring out somebody's type and helping them see with a lot of humor. We want to see ourselves and then laugh our heads off, okay, because we'll see what we're doing. But once we have the awareness of what we're doing, which we didn't have before, then we can change it. No kidding. I see people change as fast as a year. That they were clearly this type, and we'll talk about types in a minute, Jen, and then they're not. So there's 3 steps, really. There's reading the face, then there's reading your chakras, and then there's reading your whole body. So I would, divide it into 3 steps. And then in India, you'd also read gems. Now, I did a gem course for you guys at Shift Network. It's like 2 courses back, for people who are really into gems. Now, for those of you that watch a lot of TV, you might have seen the Netflix show, Indian Matchmaking. Have you seen it?
I have not, but I've heard of it. I've heard it's really neat.
Yeah, it is. And that's what they're doing. They're sitting there reading faces, help people with relationships.
And they're using it to help them matchmake.
Right, exactly.
Pair. That's so fascinating.
Yeah. So let's pull up slide number 1. I've got some fun slides to look at here to, kind of do a basic face reading deal here. So the Vedic readers, they divide the face into 3 main sections. Oh, here we see it. We see this gal, and see her face is divided into 3 sections. And what they'll want to know is which section is most prominent. So it's pretty clear with this gal, it's the top section, right?
Yeah.
That upper zone extends from her hairline to the bridge of her nose, and they call that the zone of goodness.
Okay.
Now, this is the largest segment of her face, which implies to a Vedic scholar, we would say that implies probably happiness, probably material wealth. A prominent upper zone like that usually means something like creative, intellectual, a writer, a musician, maybe a scientist. Now, the middle zone is the zone of passion. And if that dominates the face, they'll be a more ambitious person.
Okay.
They might also be quite passionate. They're really pursuing something, that they're passionate about. Their problem is usually going to be frustration and resentment, because they're not achieving what they want. And then the low zone of the face, if that third zone is the biggest one, that guy or gal is usually pretty content with what is.
Okay.
Hard for me to relate to that.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I'm looking at my face shape while I'm talking. So this person, that person has to guard against inactivity. That's going to be their issue, is not enough motivation, whereas the big middle section is probably super motivated. So again, though, I want to emphasize that our lives are a combination of karma, of fate and free will, both. So we're born under specific planetary conditions and with a certain face shape and features and body shape. But we don't want to see that as a prison sentence. we can become aware. We can laugh about our habits and our defenses, and then we can cleanse the whole thing and make progress. We don't want to stereotype ourselves.
Yeah, it's so fascinating how our physical structures really are manifestations of who we are and the work we're here to do here on Earth, right?
Right. I had a student not long ago who confided that she got so enthused about energy healing, she went home and Thanksgiving dinner, she called her brother a psychopath at the dinner table, which is a term in Vedic face reading that's been modernized, from the Western perspective. Well, I want to tell you, that didn't go over very well.
Right, I bet.
Yeah. So we want to go slow with this as it comes to labeling others. But Vedic tools are really meant to, to help us on our soul journey and not weigh us down. I want to quote from Theosophy, which is a tradition I commonly teach from. They say that karma is the destiny we weave for ourselves. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm. So one more thing I can say about this first slide before we move on. Now, a Vedic face reader would go into a lot more detail here. They'd be talking about the large forehead is auspicious, that it suggests high intelligence, maybe authority. Now, in women, a domed forehead like that is a positive sign. It means they're more social. But if we saw that same dome on a man, we think he might be reckless. So it means different things depending on gender. And everything from the position and size of the eyebrows, everything matters here. So this gal's face is very symmetrical, well proportioned. She'll probably, my guess is she'd be very happy with maybe a tendency to being a little bit fickle in love. And that's probably what the matchmaker might say.
Right.
Yeah.
Not just the different proportions of face, but also the different features of the face and like the size of the nose or the size of the lips. That kind of thing.
Oh, they get very detailed. So let's look at slide 2. We'll look at a guy's face here. And so again, his face is pretty symmetrical. The 3 zones are pretty well balanced, right?
Yeah.
1, 2, and 3. But notice that this guy's eyebrows are thick and they're closer to his eyes. This means warmth and courage. These are really good signs if this is the man you're thinking of hooking up with.
Right. He does look very appealing.
Yes. Now on the downside, he might be restless and he might be a little bit impatient.
Okay.
Now notice his, so notice his lower lip is a little larger than his upper lip.
Okay.
That's auspicious. That means curiosity and probably intelligence. If we went back and compared it to the first slide, we remember that woman had more balanced lips. Right. So as a Vedic teacher, I would say that the upper lip, you would want it to be slightly thinner than the lower lip. You'll get a very balanced person and probably easy to deal with. So, we can also talk about Mahabhuta, the 5 elements. I want to talk about that for a minute.
I would love to know more about that.
Oh, yeah. This is so interesting. I've been studying this stuff all my life and teaching it. The Vedic scholars discovered 5,000 years ago that there's 5 elements. There's fire, earth, air, water, and what they call akasha, which means space, sometimes called ether. Okay. Now, for all my students that have already taken my Shift Network course called Sacred Tools for Modern Masters, which has been so popular, you guys have evergreened it. It's really a popular class. Yes. Those students will all remember that word akasha because it's a key term in that Sacred Tools course. And it means space. So the Pitta type combines Pitta, fire, combines water and fire. Okay. And their face shape will reflect this. So let's look at slide 3 here at the 4 types. So there's oval, then there's triangle, round, and square. Now I'm going to have a celebrity for each one of these. We'll start off with I love it. The next slide, Rihanna. So I picked people I thought everyone would recognize. Now you guys remember her. She She opened the halftime show at the Super Bowl this year. Yes.
Yes, it was very fascinating.
Yes, she's really interesting, super successful as an entrepreneur, as a performer. Notice that her face shape is very balanced.
Yes.
She's popular, she's diplomatic, probably keeps her foot out of her mouth. This air element that is so pronounced in her, this Vayu element, that really tells us that she's going to have a happy, joyful life. And very successful. And, you know, she's worth over, such an astonishing number. She's worth over $1 billion, I saw when I was researching her. Isn't that ridiculous? That is ridiculous. Yeah. But her only downside is she's probably impatient, looking at her face shape. So now let's look at the next slide.
I'm curious how you see air in her, though, really going back to that slide really quick. You mentioned that their air quality was strong in her. Is it just because she's so balanced?
Also because I notice, well, I'm looking at a couple things with her, but her shape is so oval. That's a tip off that it's air.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's more about the
air and Akasha.
Right.
The two are kind of married here.
Got you.
So our next slide is of Kendall Jenner, and look how triangle shape. She's got a real pronounced triangle shape.
Yes, she does.
Mm-hmm.
So striking.
So this is, for those of you who aren't big in popular culture, this is Kim Kardashian's sister. Kind of just a extra point. She lives down the street here, not very far from me.
That's cool.
The Kardashians live somewhere between. I live in Ojai, and they're on the way to LA, which I always thought was pretty amusing. Now she's very successful, big influencer, I would call her, right? Now this triangle shape is really associated with high energy, and these people are creative, they're influential, they're artistic. She has over 280 million Instagram followers. So I suspect she's fulfilling her Vedic face shape.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Now I've got a round face coming up. Slide number 6. This is Leonardo DiCaprio. Yeah. Look how round he is.
Yes.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah. And this kind of guy or gal who's got a round face is emotional, sensitive, compassionate, and think of what DiCaprio is famous for. He's got a charitable foundation. He's active in 35 different global conservation projects. I'm so impressed with him, where he's working on biodiversity and the oceans. I mean, this guy is really plugged into environmental causes. Indeed. He's got that face shape. So now let's go to the square face. And boy, is he square, right? This is Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
See the difference? Flip back to the other slide for just a moment.
Yeah.
Round, and then we go to square. Fascinating, isn't it? It's totally once you see it, it's so obvious.
It's so obvious when you see it on the slide like that right in front of you. And the round shape, what element was that related to again?
Air and ether.
Okay.
Here, Brad's all about earth.
Okay. Yeah.
Pardon me. You were asking about round. Round is water.
Okay.
That was DiCaprio. Yeah. This guy's all about earth. And, this person is grounded and practical and stable and organized. And I mean, I thought he really lit that out here with his whole personal life. He just seemed to roll through the whole thing. No big deal. Very methodical. He's been a fixture in Hollywood for 30 years. No scandals that I've ever heard of. So very earthy,
very grounded.
Got his feet on the ground. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now a Vedic teacher will tell you there's 100 points on the face to look at. We're only looking at shape right now. And I'd be telling you, if I were looking at your face carefully, I'd be telling you about what planetary influences you have going. So this is just a short session, to kind of whet your appetite. But what I want to talk about next is body types and how they work with face shapes.
Yeah. Please
You ready
do.
for that?
I'm definitely ready for that. And I'm also curious if these elements are sort of if it's very static or if they're dynamic over time, if it depends sometimes on
Static.
very static. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Your face shape doesn't change.
Right.
You're
Right.
born with it.
Yeah.
You can make it look different with hairstyles or glasses,
Right.
or probably, I'm no expert at this, but I bet makeup.
Oh yeah.
Bet you can contour and whatnot.
Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Especially hairstyles. Because look, if you have a big high forehead, you can, hide it with bangs.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let me talk to you about body types, because
Please.
I've just been, my whole life, I've been so fascinated by what I originally learned. I was first exposed to it with a teacher who's been long dead and gone now, a gal named Eva Prakos. And then I saw it again when I was in India and in Nepal, and then in Asia, further east in Asia. It's really an interesting topic. It's been around forever. So the West, of course, stumbled on it fairly recently in the 50s. We're always a little bit behind here. But the deal is that we, from in the womb on, when we are traumatized, we do something energetically with ourselves to ward off the feeling of the trauma. So, maybe there was a problem while you were in utero at home. And so the mother really didn't want that pregnancy. It was terrible timing for a pregnancy. Maybe, there's money problems or personal problems. Could be anything. Maybe she had health problems, right?
Right.
And so the infant in utero senses not being wanted and develops certain defense mechanisms and body characteristics that ultimately can be viewed from the outside. So, what we do is we develop these habits that are not who we are. They are who we are not. It's really fascinating.
Yeah.
And across the globe, no matter where I've studied this work, there are 5 of them. But there's not 7 or 3 or anything. There's always 5 types. It's a real synthesis of East and West. And in the West, they call it body armoring. But it doesn't matter what you call it. The thing is, you want to get in touch with it, because once you've figured out your own type, and you might have 2 or 3 or 4, or hey, I don't know, even 5.
Okay, so you can have
develop.
More than one.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, because we start developing them in the womb all the way up to about the age of 10. And then we're stuck with them unless we become aware of them. And then we can discard them. I see people discard them as fast as in 1 year. It's fascinating. So let's go to the next slide. I've got Sarah Jessica Parker as the perfect image of the first type. The first type is called the unwanted child, Jen. And
okay.
I used to be able to do this one myself really well. This is for the child who wasn't wanted either in the womb or within the first month after birth, felt rejected, and they feel terror. It's existential. They're like, oh my God, maybe I'm not meant to be here on earth. And so half the time they aren't, So when they get scared or threatened, they disappear. You can see it in their eyes. They're vacant. They're not present. They're like, I'm out of here. That's their best expression is, I'm out of here.
Right.
Yeah,
they're
it's
sort
a
of
real...
like leaving their body, so to speak.
Oh, absolutely. They totally leave. And if you look at her, she's got all the signs. She's got the elongated joints, and usually they're taller and thinner, although not 100% of the time, but often. They're more elongated, and they can usually do things like that. And, all their joints are hyperextensive.
Yeah.
That often develop issues with soft tissue, a lot of soft tissue injuries with these people. They seem disconnected to reality. They might, in the old days, we might say they seem kind of spaced out. They're more prone to accidents. They're more prone to scoliosis. They usually complain of cold hands and feet. If this type sounds like you, it doesn't look like you, Jen, but someone else who's watching, this is a really common one. And, we're just trying to protect ourselves. We want to have a right to exist. So, yeah, I'm not sure Sarah is aware of this one.
Right, right.
Kind of think maybe she isn't.
Well, and it's interesting because it's kind of like you said, it's our way of coping in a way, right? It's our
It is. It's a coping mechanism that unfortunately is the worst thing for us, because just think about it. If every time your back's up against a wall and you develop this early on in infancy, leaving the scene, not being present is so risky for you. You can't take care of yourself if you're not there.
Right.
I can't tell you how many accidents I've had because I was this type. Not like a couple, like a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I used to be accident prone myself. So maybe I used to be more this type as well, and not so much anymore.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be. Yeah, you're definitely not evidencing it today. I'm not sure you could even do it now. You're very present.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Cool,
I find you present as well. So yeah, that's
yeah,
good. We're doing our spiritual work.
We're walking our talk. Okay, let's look at the second one. The second one's called The Needy Child. And John Travolta, not all the time, but a lot of the time, exhibits this. So this usually comes between the age of a month or two to about 2 years. This is the child who didn't get enough of food or love or nurturing or holding or something. Right. Maybe the mother read the book and thought she was supposed to not feed when the baby cried, but put him on a schedule. You might very well end up with this defense. So this person usually has kind of a sunken chest. Now, he's coped with it, obviously, with exercise and weightlifting probably. But they hold a lot of tension up here in their neck and their shoulders. They usually appear kind of not like they don't feel well. They tend to be kind of codependent, kind of clingy. They're very needy. That's why they're called the needy child.
Yeah.
They sometimes turn into energy vampires. He hasn't, but sometimes that, where they just suck the air right out of the room you're in. We've all known an energy vampire, right?
Definitely do.
Mm-hmm. And they go through life saying there's not enough. And the root thing is there's not enough love, not enough attention. I mean, that's what's underneath all of this. Right. This is the one nobody wants to be. This is a very unpopular type.
Right. Unpopular in the friend group as well.
Yeah, because when I ask for volunteers for types, everybody rushes up who's a 1 and a 3, but nobody wants to be number 2.
Right.
You can usually spot them because they have really needy eyes. They're pleading with you, help me, I'm hurt. And is his name Jake Gyllenhaal in Brokeback Mountain? I'm going back here 10 years to a film. He can do it really well. Every film I've ever seen him in, he's got these pleading puppy dog eyes.
Yes, he's.
So I think it's probably not just his actor persona. I think it might be himself.
Right.
Himself, yeah.
Well, and his facial features really support that as well. Like, even though the eyes are kind of the window to the soul, and you can probably see it through his eyes, but the shape of his eyes kind of have that wanting look. Well,
because he's been like that since he's been probably a month or 2 old. So that's what happens is our bodies start to look like the type.
Right.
Yeah. The more we do it, when we're under pressure, again, we don't just do this every day. It's when your back's up against a wall or there's a lot of pressure on you and you feel uncomfortable, we'll go into the old type. And the more we do it, the more our body resembles it. And so once you've spotted it in yourself, my first thing I tell you to do is laugh, get a sense of humor. And then every time you see yourself doing it, I think, oh my God.
Yeah, I love that about you, because you bring that sense of humor to it, because it is part of it's both the work and part of the fun of being human, right?
Right. Yeah. Okay, let's look at number 3. Number 3, I went to a movie actor, but in his role, not as himself at home, because I don't think Brian Cox, this is Brian Cox, and I imagine most of you know who Logan Roy is, because this is HBO's Succession series.
It's a hot show right now.
Yeah. It just closed out, I guess. I stopped watching it, and I, full disclosure, I only watched the first season. I found it pretty dark.
Same here. That's so funny. Yeah. I only watched the first season. I couldn't
It was too dark. I got too depressed.
Yeah.
But
good job, I guess.
yeah, I guess. But his character of Logan Roy is a really good example of this third type, the controlling child. This is a child who's a little older. Remember, type 1 was in utero or maybe a month old, and type 2 was maybe a month to maybe 2 years old. And this is maybe 2 to 4, 2 to 5. This is the child who gets rejected usually by the parent of the opposite sex. So first they thought they were daddy's little girl, and then they realized a year later that, well, daddy's really with mommy or somebody else, but not with me. So they feel betrayed, they feel rejected, and so it's an early wound, and they feel very distrustful. So they usually have an inflated chest. He does, and they have kind of real powerless-looking legs to me. From everything from the chest down, I usually can't see anything. Okay. It's like there's nothing there.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to spot. When you ask a live audience, who here is a type 3, all the men run out up to the stage, and they all, push their chests out.
Right.
Very, very popular type to be if you're a guy. But the downside on this one is that health problems. There's a lot of cardiovascular issues with this. It's not healthy. None of the types are. The first type's likely to be in a car accident or get run over or something, because they're not aware of their surroundings. The second one is upset all the time because people don't like them because they're so needy. And then this third type is unpopular because they're so pushy and domineering. But their issue is usually a health problem, usually cardiovascular. And even when they're smiling, they have kind of a wary, scanning look to them. Like they're scanning the room.
Right.
They're prone to being super active and then all of a sudden collapsing and just no more energy. They're usually very charming. They make great actors. They make great attorneys.
Right. Uh-huh. I mean, if you're controlling, right?
Right.
So that masculine energy is probably, it's rewarding for that particular gender.
Yeah, they don't want to be seen as vulnerable ever, because that's what happened when they were 3 or 4 and they got rejected. Mm-hmm. So they never want to look vulnerable again. So they're always into domination, and they got the big inflated upper body, like if you've seen a rooster or what's that other bird that has the big
peacock?
Peacocks. We used to have them in one of our ranches, and but there's nothing below the big wingspan. There's little tiny legs.
Right.
Yeah, so each type has a favorite mental saying. So the first one would be saying, it's not safe, I'm out of here. And the second one would be saying, help me, I'm hurt. And this third one is all about my way or the highway.
Okay, yeah.
It's my way or the highway. Pretty aggressive. Now let's go to 4.
All right, let's.
4 is the hardest one to spot in people. They usually have a look of a weight on the top of their head that is compressing them down. It's the hardest one to nail. And the core wound is 3, 4, 5 years old. It's the wound of humiliation. It's the parent that micromanaged their every breath of this child. And they just feel humiliated and overwhelmed, and they have a deep sense of shame. They seem kind of agitated to me, and the body type is usually pretty heavy and dense. Thick legs, thick neck, heavier people. Judy Garland, I think this is her in person, by the way, and not in a stage role.
In a role, right.
Mm-hmm. I think that she was just overmanaged in childhood, and was, just felt very worn out and abused. Again, this is a tricky one to spot. They deal with indirect manipulation usually as the way to solve their problem.
Interesting.
Rather than head on, they'll come at it from the side. And then for the fifth and final one, I chose Queen Elizabeth. I thought she would be a good example of the rigid child.
Okay, yeah.
That poor woman was forced into adulthood, probably at the age of like 3 or 4, right? Which can be, and the rigid child can develop all the way up to ages even 7, 8, 9, 10. All of a sudden, mother or father or other caregiver says to them, you have to be an adult. We need for you to, like the father dies and the mother says to the little boy, now you're the man of the family. Imagine, right? So this child has to put away all things childish and behave like an adult.
Right.
And conform to really impossible standards. So she's a great example of this, always upright and regal and couldn't have her own feelings. And the problem with this type is, well, let me back up. The problem with the fourth type is they're very prone to diabetes because they're putting so much they got all their energy turned on themselves inside. It's internal pressure. That's actually what causes diabetes. Western medicine doesn't know this yet, but the East does. It's literally us pressuring ourselves. The rigid child, this last one, doesn't know what they feel. They've talked themselves out of feeling. So if you ask them, what do you feel? They're like, I don't know. I don't feel anything. And they have a real hard time with personal relationships as a result. They can't seem to form an intimate relationship or a friend relationship because they've been told they have to be perfect, just absolutely perfect. They can't let their guard down. So they're over controlling themselves, and they're inclined to have health issues that are similar to the third type. They're inclined to have cardiovascular issues because they shut their whole system down. And they got real sparkly eyes, and they always look perfect. Their hair is always just coiffed, and they got a great outfit on, and they always look great.
Yeah, I think see, it's funny. It's interesting looking at these different types and recognizing some of these things in yourself. And I'm curious for you, like when you work with people and you're doing your spiritual work, how have you found that this helps people to in their own work and their own healing?
It's because it's one of the quickest ways to see yourself. I mean, we have such a hard time. And the way I teach it is so much fun, Jen, is because what you do is you look at other people. Right. And you get so you can nail it. You go, oh, you know what? I kind of look like that. Yeah, that might be me.
Right. Yeah, there's elements of different things that I'm sure we all kind of do, like you said, and maybe not all the time. We have a tendency one or the other.
Oh, no, typically not all the time. Again, It's only when we're like, I used to be the first type 100% of the time. And then finally I got over it when I was maybe 35 or something. Now I can still do it, but only if my husband gets on a ladder. So I went through some harrowing accidents, mountain climbing accidents with my husband. Okay. And he had a head injury that went on for 12 years. So I am terrified if he gets on a ladder, I go right back into type 1. I feel myself lift right off the ground. Right. I'm not even here. I'm so terrified. Yeah. We can always grab one like it's an old suit of clothes back in the closet and throw it on.
Yeah. Well, I can see it being very advantageous in relationships too, because it allows you to be a little bit more compassionate with people as to why they're reacting the way that they are, right? Right.
And then the other reason the student wants to learn these systems I'm talking about today in my upcoming course, Jen, where I'm teaching face reading, among other things, but most importantly, we'll really delve into these 5 types in depth.
Yes.
Is that they'll learn to recognize and how to deal with their mother, their mother-in-law, their boss, the landlord, you name it. Is why go at them the wrong way when you can just with some compassion spot their proclivity and avoid, not call for it.
Right.
With the wrong behavior. Yeah.
Yeah. There's such power in understanding it for other people and recognizing the people that you're with, but also with yourself, because I think people do underestimate the value of that self-awareness, because healing starts there, right? Once you recognize these patterns of behavior in yourself, that's when you can start to do your healing. I'm curious too, you mentioned earlier that there's face reading and then there's sort of an auric reading as well as the body energy types. So when you're meeting people, do you sort of like make that assessment? Or I'm assuming we all do this. When we meet somebody, we can kind of gauge a lot of things about that person based on all 3 of those things.
Yeah. And I noticed that my students are picking up far more than they realize. And when I point out to them what I see or what I believe they're seeing, and they go, oh yeah, you know what? I did notice that. So lots of times it just has to be brought to your awareness that you're already sensing all of that, because we're this amazing sensory machine. We're like a big cello, and we're picking up vibrations from others all the time. And that's why we gravitate to some people and not others, and why sometimes we feel unsafe when we go into a room. We don't know why, or a house, you know?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
We're so much more aware of these things than we realize because we're using
Way
all
more
our
aware.
senses. Yeah.
Yeah. We're way more sensitive than we're aware of.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I love what you're teaching. It really does help you with self-awareness and helping you to be more compassionate, but also, like I said, it's fun. It's a fun way to really do your spiritual work. And so I want to make sure we have a chance to talk about your upcoming program where you're going to go more into this. And the upcoming program is called Decode Ancient Vedic Face and Energy Body Types to Heal Childhood Trauma. Transform early experiences that shape your behavior, relationships, and overall health. And you can follow along with us right now at VedicTypeCourse.com.
I'm pretty jazzed about it because first time that I've taught this in a public setting, I just think it's going to be so incredibly entertaining. But there's so much history, and I love to bring a little bit of history into my courses. So, I'll be covering it from the angle of the Vedic angle. They're, these ancient seers and rishis, the profound philosophers, and the Vedas. Those are the Vedic doctors. We'll talk about them. We'll look at Aztec priests. We'll look at ancient Greece. Ancient Greece was big on body types. We'll look at ancient shamanism, and most notably, I'm going to go astrological in this course. We'll talk about that quite a bit. So you'll be getting this information from just about every important culture so that you have, a real wide understanding of it. And then what's really fun is I'll be doing a lot of one-on-one demos, because that's the best way to teach this. And maybe you, right, will be the, wave your hand at me. You'll be the demo for that type in this particular module. And you'll find out, you'll be able to discern from looking at other people's faces and bodies and your own face and body. You'll be able to really figure out how you're energetically carrying yourself around in the world and what your energy is saying. And again, it's so easy to reorient it. I would just call it reorienting myself. Not, for example, I had to learn not to leave my body. Not to feel
earlier
like
you said it's not who you are, it's who you're not, right?
It's who you're not. Yeah. The other one I can still do today that I rarely take out of the closet. I can put that old suit of number 3 back on if I have to go into a courtroom, and I haven't done that in a million years, but I had to go into a courtroom last year, and by God, I went and got that suit on.
Wow.
The one that's called Kill or Be Killed, that one. Right. My way or the highway.
Right.
I dusted that old thing off and put it on. But yeah, it felt so weird. I felt so combative.
Right. But it was like you said, it's your coping mechanism. It was the way that
it's your MO.
Right.
Right. What else do you do in a courtroom? Right.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's 5 modules, and each module will deal with one of these types, along with, as I mentioned, all these other fun cultural and, things from the ancient past. We'll do meditations, we'll do rituals, we'll do karmic cleansings. We'll talk about the 7 human powers of theosophy.
Yeah, I love how there's 5 energetic body types, and we're doing 5 modules. So it's really neat that those all follow along, and that you're also going to be talking about the different aspects from all these different cultures. Because like you said, this has been studied for thousands of years all around the world, not just in one particular area. And it's really fascinating to see some of the things that all these different cultures came up with, right?
Yeah, totally. I'm going to go into Eva Prakos's teachings, which I've been wanting to do forever. She's a really profound teacher from in the past 100 years, actually. Very interesting woman. And again, she was the first one that I stumbled on these body types with. And she's hard as heck to study, but I will make it very palatable, because she has some really important words for us.
I'd love to walk through the different modules and just they basically, like you said, they follow the different childhood patterns, traumas, and how they manifest themselves in their body. So module 1, heal the unwanted child type to let go of old attachments and experience divine compassion and hope.
Yeah, this is fun, Jen. I can't wait to teach this. So in that first module, we'll look at a type that so many of us are, starting with myself. I can really do this one. This is the child that had some kind of trauma, either before birth or right after birth. And to look at it best, I'm going to go all the way back to the Order of Melchizedek, which is one of my favorite teachings and guides. And we'll tune into that ancient priesthood, and it's more than 2,000 years old. And while we're there, we'll connect with the Egyptian deity Thoth. So, we'll connect to the god of the moon and do some really fun exercises with sacred texts, and it'll be very magical.
Yeah, it sounds magical.
Yeah, yeah. And by the end of that module, all of us will have a very good feel for what type this is. We'll be able to see it in our own body, our own face, our own carriage, the way we move around. We can laugh at ourselves. It's really easiest to see this in other people first.
Of course, yes.
You know how neat that is. It's so easy to see someone else.
Yeah.
But after just a module or two, you'll be able to see yourself and laugh about it at first.
Yeah, I can imagine once you start seeing other people, then you are a little bit able more to recognize it in yourself.
Right. And I'm always working very interactively with the attendees, with the students, so that a lot of them will have a chance to stand up and say, what type am I?
Yeah, that will be great. Yeah. Then they'll have that a little bit more of the outside point of view to help them recognize themselves more. Yeah, I imagine students also do they chime in with each other?
Oh, of course, you bet. It's amazing what you can just see in someone's face.
So module 2 is empower the needy child type to transform self-hatred and depression and embrace the light of the divine.
Oh yeah, module 2, I'm going to get really astrological on everybody and really delve into the connection there. There's some big time periods that are happening that we need to tune into and know about. And the way to look at astrology is it's not like we're forced into anything by the stars, but we can find out what our tendencies are, our proclivities are, and we can avoid or maximize or minimize, as the case may be, our behavior, by getting this information. So there'll be a lot of, when we get to module 2, we'll start really getting into Saturn retrograde, for example, which begins soon. Right after the course starts, as well as Pluto retrograde. So we'll be talking about both of those and finding out how they apply to ourselves. The other thing I'll do in module 2 is we'll talk about a mystery sect that was founded by a mythical hero, Orpheus. We'll have some fun with that, and there'll be a meditation. There'll be some ritual and some real karmic cleansing going on in this second module.
Yeah, this one sounds really fascinating. I'm excited about the astrology part.
Me too.
Yeah, yeah. Need to know what's going on around us in the planetary cosmos.
People are getting just so much more interested in it now. Have you noticed this in the last year or two?
That. Yes.
Yeah, and I studied in India. I studied Vedic astrology like a jillion years ago, and just haven't used it much. So I'm all excited about bringing it live here in that particular module.
Yeah. I can't wait. So module 3 is soothe the controlling child type to dissolve negative energy and trust that love will appear. Yeah,
this type, by the way, these types are, again, they're body postures and behaviors that we pick up in childhood that we keep doing as adults, that we'd love not to do because they aren't who we are, they are who we are not. And there are worse moments when our back's pushed up against the wall and we resort to these old behaviors that we wish we didn't. Most of the time we're not even conscious of it till it's too late. So here's a chance in this course to really dial into your own behavior, first by looking at other people, and then seeing it yourself. And then ultimately, once you become aware of it and laugh it off for a year or so, the behaviors disappear. And people's body shapes actually change. It's really fascinating. So in this third module, we'll get really into Vedic face reading, which I'm very excited about teaching. I've never taught it before, and how the shape of your face really reveals personality attributes and can really help in choosing a life partner. It's very popular in India. They use it to matchmake. So we'll have a great time doing that. I'm also going to talk about a Japanese spiritual practice, Jo-rei, in this third module.
So module 4 is free the enduring child type to clear trauma, reach your inner soul, and awaken your spiritual self.
Yeah, and week 4, I'm going to talk about Eva Prakos. So I've never taught her, although she's had a great impact on my thinking and my meditative practices throughout my life. I studied her when I was really quite young. She's been dead and gone quite a while. Really fascinating woman. Impossible to read. Okay, so I will make it palatable. I will bring her wisdom. So many of the older great teachers are just impossible to read. So I just like reading, like Latin.
Right, because the dialect was a little different back then, right? So
right. I'll make it very understandable, and so you can get the benefit from it, because she has a great deal to teach. And then we'll, of course, each module will focus in on the type of that module. And so many of us, have learned how to endure. That's the enduring child. That comes on usually between the ages of about 3 and 4.
Got it. That's right.
Back in childhood.
Different child comes in a different age range.
Yeah. And we'll do some bioenergetic exercises in this 4th module.
That's great. I know that's kind of what you're known for, Deborah. And module 5 is forgive the perfect child type so they can reveal their true feelings and live more authentically. Oh,
that's the type I can still do with the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
No matter what goes wrong. I still remember the time I was on a live stage in Toronto with a couple thousand people looking at me, and my skirt fell off and unwrapped. I had a wrap skirt on, and I chased it across the stage, laughing all the way like I was just so amused. Actually, I was having heart failure. I was so glad I had tights on. But still, I'm chasing this wrap skirt. It's hilarious. Wow. Yeah, you never forget those moments, do you? No. That's week 5. That's module 5. Is most of us have learned how to do this on occasion, how to be perfect no matter what, despite all the chaos and trauma and everything that's going on around us. But we really don't want to stay this type, because it's really hard on your cardiovascular system. So every module will connect into the downsides of continuing to be someone you're not. Again, these types are who we are not. But I'll really zone in on it in module 5, because the perfect child really loses contact with their core. And that's very unhealthy. And also, that module, I'm going to talk about some modern things. I'm going to tie some modern developments in Western medicine and show you how they connect to some ancient practices, both Vedic and Greek and even Roman. It's fascinating how Western medicine does ultimately catch up. And so that frees up, your guest, your attendee, to consider some of these modern practices that are available. So, and we're going to also talk about Kuan Yin. I love Kuan Yin. She's one of my favorites for the divine feminine. She's such a representative of that. She's the Eastern version of like Mary Magdalene or Isis. She carries that kind of a vibe. Yeah, and by the end of it, the student will be able to rattle off their own type or types. Right. Like most of us have a couple.
Yeah.
Those of us that were really beat up as children can do, at some point in our lives, all 4 or 5 of them.
The more trauma, the more types you probably have used.
Right. And they always make the best healers. I've noticed those wounded healers are always the best healers. But yeah, it's not just the shape of your body and the shape of your muscles, but, we'll cover what wound, what was the original wound? When did it develop? What's the personal declarative statement that person, and then you'll hear yourself, you go, oh, that's the thing I always say.
Right.
Yeah. It's a lot of material. I'm most excited about the cultural material that I've brought additionally to this course that I know will be of such interest to some of my longtime students who've been begging me to, teach, for example, Eva Prakos.
And you also mentioned that you'll be talking about how astrology is related, because I know this is, even the Vedic face reading is sometimes called facial astrology. So this is somehow related to the cosmos and the planetary alignments, correct?
Yeah. It is. And then I in a course I taught for Shift Network some years ago, I talked a bit about the Order of Melchizedek, but I'm going to go into quite a bit of detail about that in this course. And I'm also going to mention along the way some sages from the Old Testament, like Job. And then we'll go all the way back to Egypt, and we'll study Sekhem energy and Sekhmet, the goddess of healing. Really interesting goddess. That's all in week 1, as I recall.
I'm so fascinated. I'm so excited about this course. Again, for those of you watching, you can find this at VedicTypeCourse.com. You will get, of course, 5 90-minute live sessions with Deborah. And you'll also get to do interactive exercises with her with Q&A. Like Deborah said, she loves to do demonstrations, and she'll answer questions while tuning into your energy. She's so good at that. You'll get the recordings of the sessions, both audio and video. You'll get word for word transcripts. And then she's also really great about giving you weekly exercises and take home work, what we call deepening work here at the Shift, and a Facebook community group to support you and answer your questions. And Deborah's got such a following on Facebook herself. I had the pleasure of really getting to know you, Deborah, when I watched your Facebook live programs that you do. Oh. And I mean, just so amazing that you have the live band and answer live calls. And even on those live calls, you're able to kind of really tune into people's energies. So I know you'll be able to do the same thing during this course with our audience.
Oh, absolutely. That's the fun part. That's why I come, is for the half hour every session where I get to work with individual students in the in the group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
That's my calling in life. So I love doing it.
Yeah, I really do think that's your talent. You're just good at doing that so quickly, which makes sense that, these Vedic types really help you support in that quick assessment. And you'll also get bonuses when you go to the VedicTypeCourse.com. You'll see the bonuses listed there. You'll get a chart of the 5 mind-body types, which I've heard is a really amazing chart that really helps explain the different types that we just talked about with Deborah. And hopefully it will help you recognize yourself, because like you said, it's easier to see other people than it is yourself, right, Deborah?
Always. Yeah.
And then she'll also have another bonus that has celebrities with the 5 mind-body types. So that always makes it a little bit easier when you can see it with other people. And then if you do sign up by midnight tonight, then you do get an extra bonus. And that is going to be a 3-pack of meditations, 2 meditations, and a video teaching with Deborah, where you get a mudra meditation, and you get a Path to Supreme Soul meditation, and the Power of Pluto retrograde in your life teaching. Is there anything you want to say about that bonus, Deborah?
I am especially excited by the Pluto teaching.
More.
Oh, you got to get the package.
Right. Exactly. You got to get the package.
It was really fun for me to do, I have to say.
Yeah. Well, and it does tie in with that astrology aspect, I'm assuming. It sounds like it. So yeah, I think that'll be a great way to help people understand how this ties into the planetary and the cosmos, right?
Well, that's why I love teaching here at Shift Network, because you guys always stimulate me to bring forth teachings I haven't taught, but I know things I've been using forever, like face reading, which I've used forever and have never, ever publicly discussed. And I just glance at somebody and I see their soul. That's a much longer topic, and of course for another day, how that's done. But then you look at their face shape, and then you look at their you choose which of the 5 types are perhaps being used at the moment, or seem present enough for you to spot it in their body build. And then I look at them Ayurvedically and determine, what their balance is, their prakriti, whether they're strong in the air quality, the fire quality, or the earth quality. And you can see all of this in under 5 seconds. It's just a matter of training, really.
Right. And practice, which you've had a lot of. Right?
Practice. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're feeling it in your heart right now while you're connected with Deborah and I, today would be a great time to sign up for this course. So you make sure you get those bonuses, especially that meditation and teaching practice. We also have made it very accessible for you with only a price of 3 payments of $91, or you can save 10% when you pay in full with just one payment of $249. And it starts on May 18th. So I do encourage you to go over to vedictypecourse.com. And the course sessions will be on Thursdays at 2 p.m. Pacific or 5 p.m. Eastern. So it's a great time. And of course, like I said earlier, you get the recordings. So if you can't make the live times, you'll still get a full value because you're able to watch the recordings and the transcripts. Although we do encourage you to go live, because then you might be able to sign up for one of those and raise your hand for one of those demonstrations that Deborah's going to be doing, and learn more about your own body type and face type.
Yeah, and plus, if there's some reason I don't answer your question live, I'm not able to, I definitely always answer them over on the private Facebook page that Shift Network provides. I'm good about being there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Deborah, for all the wisdom and love you've shared today. You always bring a good sense of humor, and I'm just so excited to see this course and see what you're going to be doing. Is there anything else that you have on your heart that you want to share today?
Well, no, but just to thank you for such a fun session. It was really, I was very much enjoying it.
Great. Me too. Always. Yeah. And
all right.
We're so glad you're here and bringing your amazing wisdom to the Shift Network. Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you. Take care.
You too.